I remember someone said to me, and 22 vets a day are taking their own lives, and that just sort of made my jaw drop. I thought maybe 22 a month or something like that, and really that's just one thing. That's something that we can latch on to, but I think what all the issues that this community has been facing, they're just so vast. And the more that I dug in and the more conversations that I started having with veterans, I think that's the power of story, right? People were sharing their stories with me, and then you feel a connection, and then they're no longer this other. Your circle of responsibility sort of grows. They become like part of your family, part of your tribe. And they were giving me that experience, and so it just that I wanted to do the same. I wanted to create something so that we could all have our hearts opened up and realize that we're all just part of the same community, the same tribe. We discovered this concept of moral injury shortly after we began working on the film. There was a great piece that came out in Huffington Post by David Wood, and that was really eye-opening for me and my whole team, and that really kind of helped us to, it sort of shifted the perspective, the lens through which we were looking at this whole project, and was, really helped to be clarifying, and we thought that would help open up a new conversation.
How did meditation and the combination of nature and being supported by this amazing guy for so many months, how'd that work?
Sure. The trek itself, as you stated, just being in nature, having the chance to quiet your mind and kind of reintegrate back into nature was extremely powerful. On top of that, Anthony and I are really firm believers in peer support and how powerful that is. So you have someone who has a shared experience with you, and being able to talk with that person and have a really, like you stated, a trusting relationship where you can bounce ideas back and forth off each other, coming from a place of non-judgment. That was also very beneficial. And on top of that, we were lucky enough to be taught meditation on the trek. We learned in Colorado, and then I took the Power Breath meditation workshop after I got back from the trek. So that whole combination for me really had a deep impact on my life, and it really touched the trauma and the post-traumatic stress and the moral injury for the first time in probably 10 years. The whole process, I mean, with the meditation, and what I believe it did for me was really changed my relationship that I had with these past events. So, for example, I would go about my regular business during the day before meditation, and something would set me off to where I would get on this, like I said in the film, like a reel of thinking of these things and how I could have changed them or how I could have been different. What would have happened if I didn't have the day off my platoon sergeant was killed? How would that have changed the outcome of his death? And I would just keep playing this over and over and over again. So, and when this happened, I'd be out for maybe a week. My whole week would be shot, essentially. Because it would take me that long to come back out of it. So when I started these meditation practices, the Power Breath meditation workshop, I changed my relationship with these emotions and with these events. So I wasn't emotionally linked to these events, and I could actually look at them more, objectively. So I could finally have the clarity to look at it and be like, there's nothing I could have really done about that situation, and accept that fact, and accept the fact that these things did happen to me and that I'll probably never forget them. The people that I've saw on the streets, all these things I'm never going to forget, but now my relationship is completely different with these memories.
Moral injury doesn't have to have a religious dimension
Right.
at all,
Right.
but in this case it did. Yeah.
I was raised Catholic, so I was always taught that you needed forgiveness from a third party, or that someone above you needed to give you that forgiveness. So just sitting there with Father Thomas, and I wouldn't consider myself a practicing Catholic, but just hearing him say that you have the power within yourself to forgive yourself was a light switch for me, and then I just literally just gave it a shot. So right now I consider myself more of a spiritual person. I don't really, I guess, identify with any particular religion, but I do believe in a higher power, I guess you could say.
Can you tell us how you've gathered your forces and what kinds of different talking therapies or hours are given to veterans through the program?
Sure. So, as I said, I'm a clinical psychologist,
Mhm.
and actually, the way that Give an Hour began was on 9/11. That was the first time that I thought about giving my own services as I stood holding my 1-year-old daughter in Bethesda watching the Twin Towers fall. And there was nowhere to give my help. I knew I had skills, I knew I had abilities. And so as the years went by, 2 or 3 years later, my 9-year-old daughter, time had passed, and this was now the big sister, the one I had been holding. We saw a homeless veteran on a street corner, and she knew that my father had served, and she said, "Mommy, how can we let this happen to these men who served our country?" So I thought, well, if I'm here and I'm willing to give time, I'll ask my peers, and that's basically what I started to do. And we gathered now approximately 7,000 mental health professionals all over the country. And one size doesn't fit all for anything. Doesn't fit all for post-traumatic stress, for anxiety, for depression, for substance abuse, for moral injury. And so the idea behind Give an Hour is to harness people who have skills and expertise and figure out how to support the veteran who's in front of you or the family member who's in front of you. We work very closely with all kinds of other organizations, including Tom's, and my dear friend John Osborne, who was seen in the film. And the idea is often that it is a journey. You know, you could see it in this film. There were many things along the way that were helpful to these two men and other people they encountered. I love the scene with the tribal healer who was talking to them and how important that was, and peer-to-peer, and sometimes different combinations. And therapy for some people saves their life. But the important thing is recognizing how to identify what is important and what is of value to this person right now. So that's the philosophy. And we partner with DOD and the VA and the National Guard and the Reserves. And it wasn't always that way. When we first started, it was not welcome because there was a concern, a fear of what were we going to do? Were we going to try to convince people to leave the Army or leave the Marines? But now, over time, there has been a change, and there is an understanding and a willingness to bring in different kinds of healings, different kinds of tools, and different organizations.
In moral injury, I'm coming to believe more and more that talking doesn't fix it. And I think it was your compadre who said, I talk, and I'm still angry, right? So what do you have to do? You have to do something. You have to act. And you guys did something. You're still doing something. This movie is doing something. This conversation is doing something. Before I came here, I saw online a tagline for this movie. I don't know if it was on the movie website or AFI Docs, and it said, "Hope is on the horizon." Oh, it's right here, right now. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. I want to just add a little bit about this, the public space. It's so critical that you created. I felt this as well. So this is the sort of thing that we in the education business can use in our classrooms with returning veterans who sit in classrooms. There are 3 in a classroom this size of, I teach 200 at once, 3 veterans and a sea of 200. That's a lot of people that have to tell their story in a difficult way. But with a movie like this, the barriers are broken. So I too applaud you for this, creating a public space and a conversation. May it be easy healing.